Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of George Reviews. And we're once again talking about the newest episode of Plur1bus, episode 4, Please Carol, created by Vince Gilligan, written by Alison Tatlock, and directed by Zetna Fuentes. So, needless to say, this is another great episode of Plur1bus. I feel like I'm a broken record about that, but this show just keeps on getting better and better. This might be the best episode yet. I'm not sure how I'm going to rank all the episodes this season, but needless to say, this was another incredible, intense, funny, heartbreaking episode of Plur1bus. And I'm just really loving the ride. I'm loving everything that it's doing, and I'm just in awe. I was really happy to see Alison Tatlock as the writer for this episode. She, of course, was a writer of Better Call Saul, so that was very nice to see her. And the credits this week, and needless to say, I just completely fell in love with this episode. All the twists and turns. I didn't really know where it was going at first, but as soon as it revealed itself, I was so on board and so scared for Zosha. Let's get into it, shall we? So we have a cold opening with the guy from Paraguay from last episode of the phone call with Carol. We get to see how he lives. He's very paranoid. He's very isolated. Does not trust the hive mind whatsoever. And he's getting scraps of food any way he can. The hive mind is delivering him food, but he refuses. And he throws anything out that the hive mind are giving to him, basically. A very stoic and silent performance by Carlos. I forget his name, but I know he is one of the regulars on the cast, and it was really good to see him get more of a feel for his character, someone who's very routine, very principled, but at the same time is very paranoid and distrusting of this hive mind with good reason, as is Carol. And when he gets on the phone with Carol and he hears her clap back, he gets interested to maybe know who this Carol person is to him and who she can be, maybe an ally to him. There's lots of different ways this could definitely go, but I really feel like he feels good about this interaction, even though it kind of fell apart. So this could go in any which way, and I have a really good feeling that they're going to connect at some point in this season, and I'm really excited to see what happens. Great cold opening, kind of shrouding him in mystery, but kind of giving his day-to-day life of loneliness and isolation and things of that nature. And yeah, I had a really good time with that opening. Then we get back to real time of Carol. The countdown says it's been 7 days since the outbreak or virus or hive mind or whatever you want to call it. Carol leaves the hospital so covered in blood. She ends up taking a cop car and driving away. They try to radio her. She basically ignores. She's just had it with this hive mind. She's over it. She wants to be proactive. I think this episode she gets very, very proactive, as we'll see. She returns home to find the hive mind repairing her house, and this is her kind of getting down to brass tacks. She gets a whiteboard. She starts writing down what she knows about this hive mind, and she decides to test it out on one guy named Larry, or an individual who was named Larry, played by, I believe, Jeff Hiller from Somebody Somewhere, a great HBO show if you haven't checked it out, but he was a prominent lead on that show, and it was really cool to see him pop up in here. And they have a really kind of interesting back and forth. It really feels like this is what it's like to talk with ChatGPT. I've never actually interacted with ChatGPT, honestly. Honest hand to God, I've never done that. So I imagine this is kind of a artificial conversation with this hive mind that she's having. She asked if they liked her books. And of course, they said they're lovely. He even reads one of the passages to her, and and she asks how they compare to, say, someone like Shakespeare, and they say just as good as Shakespeare. A very like one-side conversation. Very frustrating for Carol, I'm sure, and very frustrating for us, the audience, because she's really just she's throwing like hardballs at him, and they're not really responding in the way that she needs them to. Then she gets to the question about, did Helen actually like her books? And first she's talking about the Waikaro series. She thought they were harmless, like cotton candy, just like bubble gum. And this really leads to another frustrating, dilemma with Carol. Helen's ghost is definitely bearing weight on Carol's psyche and what she wants to know, what she needs to know. And it's just all their relationship is falling apart, even after she's dead. So I think that is this really, really interesting kind of dilemma to have in this conversation. She also asks the hive mind if she liked her unreleased novel, Bitter Chrysalis or something like that. And you can tell they're like dodging the answer. They're saying that she thought it was fine, and this kind of breaks Carol's heart. The love of her life, who has died, who was urging her to work on this book, didn't really like her work or love her work. She loved Carol, but she didn't love her work, and that's very sad and very heartbreaking for Carol. You can kind of tell from the last episode in the flashback that Helen wanted to do anything but talk about Carol's work. Helen told Carol that her novel was on the list, but she wanted to do anything else than talk about her work or her books or anything like that. So it's very telling that Helen championed Carol. She championed her work, but she was not like that invested personally in it. And that's very sad for Carol. That's very sad for us to learn. Especially, the love of your life, your partner, you come to find out that they weren't as passionate about your writing as you are. Of course, no one's going to be as passionate about your creative endeavors as much as you are. I speak from experience, so it is, I found it very relatable. And we get Carol returned to the hospital to check on Zosha, and they have a really interesting conversation where she's kind of probing this hive mind in this episode to get as much information as she can, and she asks if there's a way to reverse it. And Zosha, she gives a non-answer, which makes Carol very happy, and she wants to know more about that, and she needs to go on this mission to find that out from Zosha as best as she can. All the while, we are learning more information about Carol. They're working around the clock to try to get her to turn to become one of them. So she's obviously dreading that. So she's obviously, going to want to race against the clock to stop them from turning her. And, we find out that Carol, as a teenager, was sent to conversion therapy in a Freedom Falls camp. That's what it was called. And it's a very kind of tragic revelation, one of my favorite moments. And favorite character details about Carol, she's kind of reliving this conversion therapy all over again by them wanting to convert her the way that they want her to. And Zosha says, you want to convert us back to what you are. And so it's a very interesting dynamic and dilemma that Carol's facing. So Carol becomes more proactive after visiting with Zosha. She steals some thiopentyl sodium, I think it was called, and she is, doing the research of what she can. The hive mind is kind of onto her, but not really. They're asking if she needs anything. She asks for heroin just as kind of a ruse, a deflection, so that they will not, her initial intentions of stealing the sodium thiopentyl or thiopentyl sodium or whatever. And so she gets heroin, she gets some hypodermic needles. With the thiopentyl sodium, she decides to do a little experiment. She flushes the heroin down the toilet. Obviously, she wasn't going to do that, and we get a brief mention that she has done heroin before in her sophomore year, whether in high school or college, I'm not sure, but yeah, it was a pretty dark past of Carol, and I think it's only going to get darker with more revelations that we'll be getting from her. And we get to probably one of my favorite scenes of the series so far. Carol injecting herself with the thiopental sodium, video recording herself, and feeling all the feelings and expressing all the expressions. And a really great powerhouse performance by Rhea Seehorn, in my opinion. This is like an acting masterclass of randomness that I found very, very fascinating and interesting and just phenomenal. Just give her an Emmy already, please. So Carol passes out and she wakes up. She watches herself back on the recording, from everything from her crying over Helen to reading from her Waikaro book to trying on crochet knitted hats given to her by an obsessed fan. It's just like all over the place. And then, talking about Zosha and having a revelation that she's attracted to Zosha. How fuckable, why does she have to be so goddamn fuckable? Which I'm sure is a question that we've all gone through when we are tasked with someone that we don't like or find annoying, but we find very attractive at the same time. That's totally relatable to me, and I found that so hilarious. She automatically stops the tape. She finds her experiment was successful. It's just like a truth serum in a way. She flushes the SD card. And she goes back to Zosha. She decides that she wants to take her out to get her some fresh air. She injects Zosha with the thiopental sodium and they go outside. She asks the hard question about how to reverse the hive mind as Zosha is becoming affected by the drug. And, this is very, very interesting that we see her express somewhat like sadness or a different emotion, emotion of confusion, of emotion of just anything that's not this euphoric happiness. And I found that really, really fascinating. It's not long before the hive mind finds out. They come and corner them, intercept them in a way, but they don't touch Carol because she has agency. She handcuffs herself to Zosha. And they just repeat and chant in a very creepy way. Please, Carol, please, Carol, please, Carol, please, Carol. Name of the episode. And yeah, it's just very haunting. We see Zosha as being affected negatively by this drug. And she finds out she's going to cardiac arrest and they want her help. They want to help her. They want to help Zosha. So Carol automatically agrees. They break the chain of the handcuffs. And they begin to attend to Zosha, and that's where the episode ends. Very, very fast-paced, but, very reflective on Carol's past and what Carol wants to do to be proactive against this hive mind. And it was another great story progression in this series. I'm just loving this so much. I haven't loved the show this much since Better Call Saul and Succession when those were airing. I really feel like this is filling the void of those shows. They kind of ended a few years ago, and it's definitely filling the void for me. And I just, can't wait to see more of it. It is just really brilliant. Alison Tatlock did an amazing job writing. Zetna Fuentes, I think her name is. She did a great job directing, or they did a great job directing. And yeah, all in all, it's another great episode of Plur1bus. But there's really not much more to say besides I think it was brilliant. And I hope I'm not coming off as boring. But I mean, if this show had any striking things I had, that irked me or had any criticism with, I would definitely say it. That nothing is above criticism. I'm loving the slow pace. I'm loving the character building and the world building. This is my kind of show. I love stuff like this, and I cannot wait to see the next episode, which is coming out early Tuesday night / Wednesday. I actually got to watch this when it first dropped on Thursday nights. If those who don't know, they technically release episodes on Friday, but they drop it the night before on Thursday, 8 p.m. Central Time for me. So I thought that was pretty cool. And, I'm a very active user on Twitter, so I know my feed's filled with Plur1bus, just madness and insanity. So it was very nice to be a part of the conversation, not get spoiled for anything. I definitely plan on watching this Tuesday night, and I'll try to get the video up before Thanksgiving for the next episode. It's because I'm loving this show, and I'm loving doing these videos, and I just want to thank everyone everyone for tuning in, for liking, and for all the new subscribers. Welcome. I really appreciate you coming around and hope you stick around. But those are going to be my thoughts on this episode of Plur1bus, Please Carol. And yeah, it's just great. And I loved it. And as always, please like and subscribe if you'd be so kind. My name is George Ray. Thank you so much for tuning into this video. I really appreciate it. Please remember to keep calm, keep cool, keep chill. Embrace great cinema. Embrace Plur1bus. I'll see you on the next episode. Until then, peace out.